Grid Kids.
Hey everyone, welcome to the fourth episode of Grid Kids. As always, I'm your host, Nicholas Semrad, and I just want to yet again thank everyone for their input and for their support thus far. This podcast continues to be a joy in my life, and honestly, I think I'm beginning to learn as much by doing this podcast as I hope some of you are by listening to it. During the last episode, I had mentioned that I was beginning to find peace in not really having a specific path laid out for this whole project, and I must say, after listening to this upcoming episode, I'm really finding that I think I have quite the opportunity here. You see, a trait that I have, of which I'm certain I share with some of you, is that this business is really all I've ever known. Music was a large part of my family life, with my dad being a somewhat nationally known musician, and my mom, grandparents, and brothers almost all being involved with music either through performance, through the business side, or by just being well-educated supporters. My relationships as a young child and a teen were largely based on whatever playing skills I had at the time, and well, I can honestly say that almost every intimate or romantic situation that I've ever been in was probably given an assist by whatever abilities I had as well. When you're as introverted as I was during my youth, and to a certain extent still am now, you use whatever tools you can in these situations, and the tool of music just happened to be my most efficient option. Therefore, almost everything that I know as a person, and an overwhelming percentage of these experiences that I've had, were either created by or can be explained using a framework in music. The reason this podcast is such a great opportunity for me, and hopefully for you as well, is that I find myself, partially through luck and partially through practice, surrounded by some of the greatest success stories in musical life. I've been able to work with parents who tour for a living, married couples, people who live as healthy as possible, and people who have survived living as unhealthy as possible. I've met people who have dealt with the greatest of tragedies, and I've met people who have been pillars of hope, faith, and creativity for their particular scene. I'm fascinated by stories of the successful pathways through some of these obstacles, and I hope that, in sharing them with you all, that will create both a sense of unity and the knowledge that there is always a way through the deepest pitfalls. My two guests for this podcast are the legendary bassist and sonic explorer Tim Lefebvre and his lovely wife and incredible keyboardist and artist, Rachel Eckroth. Rachel is currently on tour not only playing with but opening for Rufus Wainwright, and Tim has played and recorded for everyone from David Bowie to Bryan Adams and was a longtime member of the Tedeschi Trucks Band. To give you a sense of what each of them sound like, here's a short clip from Rachel's newest record, When It Falls, of a tune called Love Is Lost, followed directly by some of Tim's bass work on the David Bowie record Lazarus, and the tune is called Sue or In a Season of Crime.
It's the darkest hour, you're 22. The voice of youth, the hour of dread. The darkest hour, and your voice is new. Love is lost, lost is love. I got the job. We'll buy the house. You'll need to rest, but now we'll make it.
And here's my interview with Tim Lefebvre and Rachel Eckroth. All right, I am here with Tim Lefebvre and Rachel Eckroth. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Semrad.
Thank you for being on my podcast and talking about whatever the hell we want to talk about. I've known Rachel for a bit. I met you up in New York.
At the session.
Was it at the
At
lesson?
the lesson. Yeah.
I feel like
Maybe you
I
met
think
me
I have an
before.
earlier memory.
And then I forgot you.
That's probably it. That
Quickly.
makes sense. I was horrified in New York. I lived in a neighborhood that I shouldn't have been living in, and it made me not talk. Anyway, no, I think I saw you.
You know it's bad when your neighborhood.
Yeah, I can't even say the name of it.
Makes you go mute.
I can't even say the name of it. I saw you play a gig with Dave Cutler and Jesse Fisher at. It was damn it, I'm gonna space on the name, but it was like my attempt to get into the David Cutler hang. Because
Wow.
he was like a
Is
dude.
that a hang?
I think at the time I was trying to. I was like, oh man, he's the other bass player at the lesson, and he's a fucking monster. Like, let me go to that guy's gigs.
Was it at the Brooklyn
No,
thingy?
it was in the city. It was a place that I've definitely thrown up outside of before.
Lower East Side.
yeah.
I know that
Yeah,
place.
yeah. No.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
it was-
I don't remember doing a gig with was it my gig?
It was you, Jesse, Dave, and a drummer who I totally can't
Jerome
remember.
Jennings?
Yeah, it was Jerome.
So it was probably like my show.
Yeah. Yeah, it was your music.
Was it Drum?
No, I can't think of it. But anyway,
Doesn't really
that
matter.
was my first you experience.
Oh.
And then Tim, I got to know you through. It was kind of weird. Like I started getting into pedals like a couple years into New York, and everyone's like, "Well, if you like pedals, you like fucking this guy, and you should check it out." And like I've watched all these. I spent like 3 hours having a Tim Lefebvre pedal night. So.
And
Yeah.
you learned nothing.
No, it was dope, man. So yes, I'm glad I finally get to chat with you guys officially on microphones, recorded forever. How's it going?
Great.
You guys are both in sort of off season, at least for another short amount of time. right?
I got 2 more days here. So
Jesus.
I'm doing everything back to back for the last 2 weeks. It's been like full on everything schedule.
Yeah.
all day
Wrote and
long.
produced a song. Got your Rufus Wainwright show together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you did a big run with him.
Yeah,
are you
we're
going back out?
to Australia.
Fuck, that's so killing.
For a couple weeks.
And the first time you played with him, it was like play with him and open for him, right?
Same, yep.
That was
Yeah,
dope.
it's
How'd that go?
the whole thing is for his All These Poses record, or it's called Poses. The tour is called All These Poses.
New stuff.
It's an old record. It's 20 years old. So we're doing
Okay.
all that. We're doing his first record as well, and so it's like a long show. And then I open also.
Are you doing that
with
again
like 45 minutes?
in
Yep.
Australia?
Yeah.
That's so killing. And your stuff, which I will do the whole like linkage and check it out, and I play intros of. So these people have already heard you a few moments ago.
Yay.
Do you run tracks? Because your stuff is pretty like intricate.
Right.
Yep.
So, in a way, I kind of run tracks, but not really. So,
Okay.
so like, yeah, my music's pretty thick, like on the record. So, I've kind of had to reinvent because it's just me solo,
Mhm.
right? So I've had to reinvent the beats and kind of just like what happens during the song.
Sure.
It doesn't really sound like nothing really sounds like the record except for maybe one song. But I run an SP404, the Roland SP404. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, it's like a little sampler.
That's what the Wolfpack compressor was built to emulate.
Really?
Yeah,
Hey.
which is why I got it.
So I run elements of the song. So I have a few sounds that are actually off the record, and then I've made some new drones and stuff.
Okay.
Definitely made new beats, and then I play the Korg monologue for the bass, my left hand. And I have a Nord, and I've got some pedals set up, and then I'm using the TC Helicon Voice Live.
That's you can run MIDI into it.
Right,
Based
it's a
on the
vocal
chords you're playing.
processor, and
Right.
I'm using another board to do chords and stuff. So I just kind of like, I'm doing like a variety of stuff
Yeah.
for the whole thing, and so.
Do you find that fucks with your writing process when you know, like, okay, I have to adapt to multiple situations, or do you just kind of adapt later?
Well, I mean, that was later because I didn't know that was going to happen
Oh.
when I was making that record. And I've never done a solo thing before, and I don't really play guitar very well, so I couldn't rely on that. Although I do play guitar in Rufus's show.
You couldn't be that songwriter.
No, I couldn't. I was I'm different. So.
Really trying to go with the coffee house singer songwriter vibe, you know, Arlo Guthrie.
That's so good. That voice live shit has changed the world of that possibility. Like, and I think it's still green enough to where people are trying to figure out how to do it well, which you do. But just the fact that you can like harmonize and you don't have to pre-write it.
Right.
It's just.
I mean,
feels really fun.
Yeah, it's fun actually. It's like it's really improvisational for me up there.
Yeah.
Like, and I have it worked out, so I don't necessarily have to follow any form of
That's
my
killer.
songs. And harmonically, I can fuck around with the TC Helicon, like, and yeah, it's cool. And actually, I've not heard a lot of people doing it how I do it. People use it in other ways, but I've heard like maybe 2 or 3 artists. Maybe I'm just not knowledgeable enough.
Checking people out.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen
know.
people use it.
If anyone knows who does it, who uses it the same way,
Send Rachel
Send them
private
to me.
Instagram messages with your personal Instagram links of the TC Helicon. Let's get as creepy as we can about it. And then Tim, you are back. You for a long time were doing the Tedeschi Trucks thing, and now you're doing a bunch of your own projects. And I saw you just got back from Asia with McCaslin, right? Which was probably epic as shit.
It was fun. Yeah.
I can't imagine. I don't know Jason Lindner that well, but it seems like him in Asia is kind of like a religious experience.
It's a great combination. I don't know if you saw any of his Instagram stories. Like, I mean,
I'm sure.
Me and Zach Danziger were commenting about how, like, he's just his Instagram story game is just so good. He went to a digital art museum and he was like posing in all these digital art installations, and it's just fucking ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. I mean, you got to see these. Well, they're gone now because they only last 24 hours. But I mean, it's just incredible.
I feel like and I don't even know if he knows a ton about it, but I feel like he just embodies like the East. Like just East, like Eastern, like philosophy and medicine and lifestyle.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, he's a very, very interesting guy.
Like, he may just show up to a gig wearing like sheets and like have sold all his possessions.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, maybe not.
He wouldn't sell his Maris Auto bit.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
I'm pretty sure, or his Whirly, I guess.
I need to tag Maris in this because I haven't met up with him.
Or his Prophet 6, the Dave Smith.
Oh yeah. Does he tours with the module, right? He
No, he
brings
gets it back, and he brings his laptop and loads his patches in. Yeah, pretty brave.
That's so killing, man. Yeah, touring with my Prophet has been the fucking worst. And
why?
Like the board is amazing, but I just for some reason my dumbass never wants to splurge for like the best cases. I always have like, okay, I have this pretty good one, and then I come back and there's like screws on the inside. And, like,
are they all that different though?
You would think not. I don't know. I need to find whoever the. This is going to be a podcast of us asking for recommendations from our listeners.
But it's a real life application.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
What I
mean? And I've had too many bad cases where like latches break after a week, and it's just like a fucking nightmare. But
I'm saying like would it stop you you wouldn't backline one?
Well, I use the X.
Oh yeah, that's new.
Which now it's really tough, and no one wants to pay that kind of money for.
Yeah.
Are you guys flying around mostly?
Yeah.
Is that most of the?
Yeah, and now it's. I mean, Corey's the Funk Apostles that I play with the most, and I've been playing a lot with Noah and Donnie too a little bit, and like Corey at the beginning, it's like you're building your budget for the band, so you kind of like. It's not like being cheap by any means, but it's like, okay, where can we save a little bit? And so every now and then we would fly like a Ryanair or something like that.
Oh, that's where you get
I've flown with Ryanair twice, and both times were awful. But the second time, we were late to the gate, and so even though they were still boarding, they wouldn't let us on. And so they had to take all our gear off, and my gear came down, and the Prophet case was wide open.
Oh.
Like, it looked like a suitcase had landed on all the knobs. There was like 4 or 5 of the knobs were like broken in half in the middle.
Yeah.
And their whole vibe is just like, well, shouldn't have been late to the gate.
Yeah.
It's just
I have one bass case like that.
Ugh.
For my pretty rare, it's a Gretsch Country Gentleman.
Oh,
It's like a pretty rare bass, and like just every time I bring it to the airport, which I don't bring it anymore, I'll just ship it to where I'm going.
Yeah.
Because the hasps are loose. I can't find a custom. No one will even make me a custom case for it because it's like a really long neck. And
Oh, sure.
It's a hollow body, sort of hollow body, so it's just like, it's a nightmare. But I know what you're saying.
I think you were the first person who told me to tell bass players to have hard cases. Because you use hard case all the time.
Yeah, I don't, or a hard gig bag. I mean, I don't even try to get it on the plane anymore.
Yeah, it's such a battle. I tell that
It's
to
not worth it.
the young cats all the time. Like, it's possible. Like, but you're going to be arguing with damn everyone.
Yeah.
Like, and some of those places will not let you in. Like, if you fly to Asia, like Korea or something.
They
like
won't
that,
let you do it. But they do take care of the acts.
Yeah,
It's cool.
they'll wrap the shit out of it. But there's no way it's coming with you.
No.
I'm sure most of my listeners know this fact, but you guys are married. we should probably mention that.
We are married.
You guys just got married sort of recently, right?
Yep.
November.
November. Damn. How do you survive touring? I know that's a super broad question.
Well, we were doing it anyway before. I mean, she was touring less than I was, but
You guys met in New York, correct?
Yeah, and he was on tour.
Okay.
But he lived out here in LA
Okay.
already. So we met like 4-ish years ago.
yeah.
And yeah, so he was in and out of town. You know, I had a job. It was fine. I had things to do.
So you
And
guys,
then-
it's almost like you
yeah.
guys met under that pretense of like, oh, this is just the thing.
Yeah, but yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because it's like, we both are in the life, so it's not like it's like, oh, surprise, I'm going on tour.
Sure,
It's just,
yeah.
Right.
Of course we miss each other, but it's not.
Yeah.
But it's not like the end of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
it's part of the deal.
This is it's kind of funny. I mean, the adjustment wasn't like that we had to get used to being apart. It's like we had to get used to being together. Actually.
Yeah.
Man, yes.
So-
Well, we're getting used
We're
to it.
getting
It's
better
good.
at it.
Yeah.
I totally feel that. I dealt with a little bit of that myself, but yeah, it's such a weird process because there's multiple angles. Like you have to be able to operate away from each other, but you also, I feel like there was like this point of recovery that when you tour hella hard, at least with me, if I would be out for a month even, I couldn't talk to anyone for a week. Like I get home and I'm just like, fuck off. Like, and I that was a big thing in my relationship, was that like I never approached that like a system that worked there, because logically it was always tough for me to say like, well, I know I just worked 4 weeks and I need a week to do nothing, but like when you get back, like that's the week where you do all the stuff that you should have been doing while you were on tour.
But the thing about that is then the way my life's been like the last, until I quit Tedeschi Trucks, was like just I was getting home for a couple of days, always less than a week, and then I was out doing something else, either with Donnie or I was always kind of overcommitted. So it's just like it's basically having no life.
Yeah.
And she would come out to some stuff and we'd work it out, but it was the part of what I went through a lot of was fear of missing out. And even when I'm home, it's just like, but when you're home, you want to just chill and do nothing. No, right? I mean, you're working your ass off.
Absolutely.
I mean, whether people think it's glamorous, and you are working your ass off.
Yeah.
And so like when you come home, you're burnt, and you don't want to go out, even though you should go see bands and stuff you want to go see. It's just like I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And even if you live close, we don't live close to the scene, but it doesn't matter. It's just like because it's still the same amount of time.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
you just want to be human.
Yeah. It's a weird thing too, because if you were to write out like, okay, what does a touring musician do when they're on the road, it doesn't seem that crazy. Like it's like the NBA team on paper that's like killing, but you look at their lineup and you're like, that's fucking terrible. Like, how did the Pistons win a championship?
Right.
I think about my day. I'm like, okay, cool. I slept in the bus. Like I slept in a little bit, got like 6 hours of sleep, which is great on the road. And then you wake up and you go get coffee, and then you go to sound check, which doesn't involve much playing, but it's like 2-3 hours of just hanging out. And then, okay, now you have to hang out before the show and go get food. But what people don't really catch on is like, all that shit is like mental engagement. Like there's no real shut off. I mean, you can if if you're really good at touring, you can get to those points where you're like, okay, I need an hour to myself, where it's like, don't talk to me, or I'm gonna go walk around the city or something. But I ran into so many situations where I would get done with the day and be just fucking exhausted, and you look back and you're like, damn it, I don't really think I did anything.
Well, I mean, you think that, but like if you're not tired by the end, after the gig, you're like, I think you did it wrong.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you should be,
Yeah.
especially after you've done playing.
Yeah. No, I feel yeah.
I think.
And it's it seems like the it's I feel like the touring musician thing, to me, I think if I would have been really open about it and had been doing it at the beginning of my relationship, it would have came off super well. But I'm always telling like young couples, like, man, be really honest about like, hey, this is what I do and this is how it goes, and like this isn't just a passing fancy, like this is actually a thing.
Yeah. I think it might be easier because we're both musicians doing it.
And you understand.
Yeah,
the
and
other
my
ones.
sister married a musician who has been on tour a whole bunch. And she we're a family of musicians, so she kind of knew.
It. No, she gets it.
She gets it, but she still gets that frustration, like,
Yeah, He gets to go fuck off. Like
he
in-
gets
in
to go
Palm
have
Springs.
fun on the road in
Yeah.
cool places, but even though it's not really that.
Jackie, love you. Sorry.
Yeah.
But but still, like, she's got a kid. She has to be there
Right.
taking
Yeah.
care of the kid. And when he gets home, she wants to go out and do stuff.
Absolutely.
But he'll try to be doing stuff in town. You know what I mean? So it can get hairy.
Yeah,
Probably.
and it's something too to where there's this certain part of touring where, especially if you're like very business minded on like, let me show off what I'm doing and being all advertising or whatever, you have to like show the fun parts. Like if I'm in Europe like going hard at a party and it's like Berlin and it's like a super killing vibe, like I'm definitely posting that. I'm putting something up, or like if the crowd was rowdy and there's a bunch of clips of it, 100% putting that up. And that creates this kind of allure, and I've talked about this on previous podcasts about how the Instagram thing you see isn't necessarily a great example of like what's going on with those people. But especially if you're in a relationship, that person sees the like, oh shit, my mate is having this great time. He just told me he was sick and exhausted. But it's like, well, I am, but I also have to show this piece of this. So it's.
Yeah.
Man, I give it up to yeah. I give it up to both of you guys for like being in this thing. And doing
I'll definitely I'll definitely call Tim and complain about whatever like little aspects of whatever gig I'm on sometimes. But then 5 minutes later, post like, "This is the greatest gig of my life."
Yeah.
Like,
It's so funny. And then the longer you're on a gig, the posts tail off.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, the first week is like, let me show every highlight, and then by the end of it, you're just like, I really want a clean pair of pants.
Unless you knew like something was killing, like because like a bunch of people she would too. She'd post stuff from the side of the stage where it was basically the only place you could hear me. So, anyway.
That's like, I love that.
So anyway, like but everybody was standing on the side stage,
Yeah.
Behind me and Kofi, and then you
Yeah.
can see JJ Johnson and Falcon. But like that's people would film from there, and that's half the time like that's where I'd repost from.
Yeah.
Like because I can't obviously film myself,
Sure.
and I wouldn't. But
Yeah.
there was a couple of good things that came from that. That was fun. She was responsible for quite a few of them.
That's good. We have Corey's guitar player Adam Agati has the same thing happen because he gets crushed like frequency wise. You have me who's brutal, and then you have Corey who's been sorry Corey, I love you, but you've been deaf since you were 8.
Yeah.
It's man, when you grow up with two Leslies like in your back, you're just gonna have that issue. But if you're a guitar player and in that band, like no one hears you. So it's you can always tell when his girlfriend has come visit because he'll get all these great posts from like right on the stage, like right on the fucking angles and shit like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like like when I was playing with Derek, and I was in a triangle with Derek and Kofi.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
R.I.P. Kofi.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the fun corner, but it was fucking loud. Like,
dude.
like I went to in-ears, like, because somehow like over the years, like my rig kept getting reduced for some ungodly reason. Like I went from an 8x10 to a 4x10, and then I kept turning it down. I got a pad so I could stand on it and be vibrated on it. And then finally I was just this summer, I was just like, can I try in-ears? Because it actually saved my ass. No, it did, because I couldn't hear a fucking thing I was playing.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get used to it?
To what, in-ears?
Yeah.
Not long, because I did a tour with Brian Adams. Brian Adams, not Ryan Adams. In 2016. And so Brian Adams is way cooler than Ryan Adams.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah. No, but Brian Adams was cool. He was mad cool. And so I had to do, that was an in-ears tour. Even though I still had my amp on stage. And so I kind of got the vibe of that then. So it didn't take too long.
It's been a struggle for me.
In-ears?
Yeah. I feel like my frequency is the one that gives the most pain in the ass too.
Well, you're also talking about. With bass frequency, to me, it needs to sound like a record with a bass a little boosted. Because I've been recording with these same things. Because also, like in a lot of recording situations, you're recording in the same rooms as drums.
Yeah.
And so, like, I find that if I don't have something that completely isolates me, then you're fucked. Like, basically, you're gonna play shitty.
That makes sense.
And even then, sometimes you still don't.
Do you do the like 1 ear in vibe, or do you do the whole joint?
I go both in.
I heard that was dangerous.
It is dangerous.
For your ear, for your hearing or something.
Yeah. I would do one earplug like in and out sometimes, and that also screwed my ears up.
Yeah, it's weird. It
Yeah.
gives you a weird like false sense of volume too.
Well, the other thing is like in your right ear, then you get the picture of how loud things really are. Like, it's like,
I've
You know,
been
after the show.
I've been using in-ears for a long time, like probably for 10 years on gigs, and I've found that it really depends on the quality of your earpiece and the monitor guy or girl.
yeah.
Like that makes the biggest difference it makes a huge difference if they're mixing nice in your ears or
Yeah.
not. It's like really helps.
I mean, I got good Ultimate ears. I got the 18 pluses, which are fucking great. And then so when I went to Japan this time, I was like, I got there and I was like, our liaison picked us up, this girl Momo, and so I was like, do you think you could talk to the monitor guy and see if we can get in ears? And like they hooked it up, and it actually was fucking great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't. I just wanted to.
Did you play the Blue Note?
Yeah, the Blue Notes. Yeah, they are hooked up with like full technology, so it was really
I've heard that
They're
place is
awesome.
when it comes to treating the artist is kind of like the vibe.
the best. It's the best.
Yeah.
I haven't played there yet.
If you walk down the hall, they go like this when you're walking
Yeah.
by, which
I love that.
I'm waving
Yeah.
my arm out to the side right now, and they just let you pass. Like every single person that works there.
honor
will do
culture
that.
shit,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, no, it's a great place to play.
That's
It really
so
is.
dope.
And they loved it. We didn't sell every show out, but they loved the energy of the show.
Yeah.
So like, it was cool.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, but I mean, Donnie's gig is getting louder and louder. So like, that's the reason
Jesus.
why I went to it.
It's an indie rock band.
Yeah,
It's a-
right. So like again, it's a matter of like, I'm getting sick of not hearing myself specifically
Sure.
being able to do stuff and like struggling to just play normal shit. So it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, I got to do this because
Yeah.
it's just. So I'm going to do it as much as I can going forward.
You also have a very nuanced tone. I mean, I've only played one gig with you, but I've heard a lot, and it seems a lot of bass players have like, okay, here's my tone for every situation, and you're very not only adaptive, but like there's very specific personalities to each thing you do, so you can't really lose that. Like you have to.
It's not even so much about, it's just embarrassing, like, because most of these guys tape shit, right? And it's just like, I hear, like, if you can't hear yourself, you play something and you're going to hear it back and you're going to regret it because it just sucks.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, I literally sound like an amateur.
Yeah.
So, like, I got sick of that. I don't want to put anything out in the universe that I just don't think is good. So, like, having in-ears, like, I clean up what I'm doing. And it's not overthinking it either, but it cleans up a lot of stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it's not like I'm not in the moment, not improvising. It's just, but it cleans up, which I think is good because then so these 20-year-old shredders don't think I suck. I actually kind of mean that because they could. If you hear my, that's what I always said about that with Noah. It's just like, why does Lewis Cole think I can play? Because I can't. Those guys shred their brains out. I was, it's just like whenever I did a recording with them, I was just like, dude, I can't play this shit. Like, and then he'd find 2 bars that were good, and everybody thinks I'm a god. But it's like fucking. The reality is.
I feel like in the Instagram music scene sometimes is like the MySpace camera angle.
Yeah.
You know how like you could hold the phone way up and like, oh man, this person who like isn't that attractive now just looks like the baddest person you've ever seen.
Oh my god.
That's so true. So
I
true.
didn't know that was a MySpace thing. Is
Oh,
that where it
absolutely.
started?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at people's top 8s, like the MySpace picture was absolutely the one that always got picked. Like the metric favored the, you get the one angle that makes you look like you're super fit.
Yeah.
Don't change that angle.
Got to.
That's right.
Don't change that.
Always take your pictures.
Crop your
the camera up.
photos, everyone.
Yeah. She's a master at that.
Oh,
Crop.
that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, that Noah thing is I love Lewis because he'll find these, like I've played with 5 or 6 different lineups with him, and every one of them is just these sleepers full of like shredders.
Unbelievable.
And I feel so intimidated all the time because I have a little bit of that, but not near.
No, you're good at that.
I don't think it's near what, like man, like have you played a gig with Ray?
I've seen it. I've seen it with Ray. Yeah.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah. It is pretty unbelievable.
It's like him and Jacob and like and Dennis and all those guys.
Well, and also I have to hand it to Sam Wilkes. Like he's sitting. Like I would always do that gig standing up, and it's like he's sitting down, and so he can really tackle the hard shit. And
Yeah.
that's a huge. It's genius.
I'm trying to make him stand up.
Yeah, but he's not. Yeah, I'm telling
He
you,
won't
he's gonna lose. And trust me, because his music is so intricate and so slick, and like it's like all this fast mono neon-y kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like if you stand up, you're going to lose 40% of it.
Really? Is that
Yeah.
that's the thing with bass playing?
Absolutely. No, that's why he's smart, because he's sitting down and dialing it in.
Man, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, because he can really sit there and pound it out.
Yeah.
And he's on top of it.
Keyboard that affects keyboard players in a different way because we lose one of our feet. I think.
All right.
True.
Like I get so much shit because my left hand lives like on the mod wheel or knobs. Okay, so I play hella 4 or 5 note voicings that sound deeper than they are because I'm, and everyone's like, man, why don't you just have your foot do that? And then I try and show them what I look like when I'm playing.
How could your foot do that, though?
Well, it's like if you play a sustain pedal and use like a expression pedal.
Gotcha.
Like you can map that shit,
Right.
but just think of like the logistics between. Okay, it's like a guy wearing heels. Really, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like you're playing the sustain pedal and then balancing up and down on the left. And like I have a big ass for a skinny kid anyway, so it just adds this whole metric of like, what the hell is that guy?
But you guys are doing both. Where like you're programming. I think it's kind of cool. Like, but there's something tactile and like having pedals. Like I could never figure out what I'm doing. I could sort of figure it out, but I could. It's easier to tackle with pedals to me to get a sound than it is to try to dial it in on a synth. Even though I'm getting a little better at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I don't understand like LFO does what to this and like I don't get it. But I can make it happen on a
Consider a synth 300 pedals.
Yeah.
right.
And so
Just all the things that the pedals are
Right.
in one.
Yeah, and I don't think it seems overwhelming, but I don't think that you ever. I only know 1 or 2 synth people. One of them is Peter Dyer, who I don't know if you guys know, but he's a LA cat, and I'm gonna have him on here because he's like by far the best programmer I've ever met at this shit. Like he does like if you hear a pop synth sound, like it was him. Like all the Avicii shit, all the like early Mariah Carey stuff, like him. But I think for the most part, you find your like 4 tricks. And that's been my thing. It's like every synth, even if the metric is the same, the outlay is different. Like I still go, okay, where's my secret number 1? Where's my secret number 2? Which tap into my YouTube series to learn my secret.
Yeah.
But you find the 2 or 3 things that make you, and then you just live and die by them. And it's the same shit as pedals. And honestly, I get pedals that do that shit so that I can dedicate my synthiness to something else.
Right.
Like things like frequency LFOs and like all kinds of.
Say that once more.
It's so fucking hot.
the dwarf. I was telling him about the dwarf craft. You ever check that out? So that.
He never hit me back though.
Oh no, I get him. I don't get you.
Dwarf or dwarf?
What dwarf?
Dwarf.
Dwarf.
Dwarf craft, like a little guy.
It sounds like a Dungeons and Dragons sequel, but it's this company out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, I believe.
And Metaverse is out of Wisconsin too.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. They do. I don't think they make a normal pedal. Like I have a couple, and one of them is this. It's called the Happiness, and it's like a cut off LFO, which is shit you could do on a synth anyway. But the dope thing is that the LFO has an LFO, so you can do like that kind of shit where it's like wow 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 wow, and it has CV in.
It's kind of like that record you were listening to yesterday.
It's really fucking heavy. It's like really fucking heavy.
The Happiness one.
Yeah, they make all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, I've never been interested in using expression pedals and stuff with my feet for the same reason, and just because I like to have it in my vision, at my grasp. You can do a lot more that way.
Well, and there's something about your foot. At least my foot as a keyboard player is just very awkward.
Yeah.
Like if I turn a knob, I know like okay, if I want to hit halfway, it's fucking easy. I go from not halfway to halfway, and then I stop there. But your foot, like, have you ever tried to be really precise with your foot? Like drummers spend years on being able to do that
it's
shit.
hard enough with the volume pedal to get it right. So,
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, when I used back in the day when I was experimenting with that the Mugafuga low pass filters, it's like just trying to get that.
Getting it
The
exact.
expression and all, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was like one thing was wider than the next. It was just insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
There's all these companies now who are trying to do like the ring, like the MIDI ring, or like the the shit where okay, let's use another part of your body, and I don't think any of them have figured it out yet. But if they do, that I think I might give that a shot at some point.
Wait, so what's a MIDI ring?
So
is it actually a ring?
This kid's gonna be upset with me that I can't think of his name offhand. But I had a buddy bring this. well, I don't even know if I'm supposed to talk about it. I'll talk about it. Screw it.
You can just edit it out.
Yeah, I know if he gets a hold of me. Dude who I'm talking about, if you need edits, let me know.
Dude shall be renamed,
Yeah.
renamed later.
But it was a ring that would measure, you would zero it out, so like you would put your hand on the keyboard, it would see what height your fingers
Oh,
were
shit.
at. And then if you raised your finger or something like that, it would change like the either CV or MIDI output or something.
Is that black keyboard?
No, it's not even a keyboard. It's just a ring.
Wow.
It's like it literally maps. Okay, where is his hand from here to the ground?
And sends some signal to some.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So the idea is dope. So I think the idea is that you
Yeah.
could play something with one hand and then like do the stuff that you would do on the Rolly keyboard, which again tries to do all that stuff.
That's what I'm talking about. The black
Yeah,
one
yeah.
that it's like doesn't even really have keys.
Yeah, it's not keys. It's
Yeah.
laid out with key-ish things.
Right.
They're like button-y
Yeah,
keys.
it's like if you set a blanket on top of your keys made of black rubber.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
you would never do that, but.
I don't know what I do.
Yeah.
Beep.
But yeah, it would just you would roll your hand up and it would roll the cut off down or something like that. So,
I can see how that could be a problem though, because like if you're using your fingers in other ways to do other things,
yeah, you like go to
during-
adjust your tie and you're wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's I told him this. I don't think it's there yet, but I think once the technology gets there, that could be
It's
a
a
cool
good
way.
idea.
Like, maybe they map it onto your knees. You could do like leg
Yeah.
ups
Or
and
you could
shit.
just do it like your shoulders, you'd be like this the whole time.
That was so good.
I
I
like
really
it.
want to chew on this this piece of celery right
Do it.
now, but
We'll talk over your. Just chew right in the mic. Heavy compression.
Rachel, I wanted to ask you. I wrote this down as one of my notes. So, and I'm sure you've been asked this in hella interviews, but I'm going to ask a different version of it. The first time I saw you, your music was in a very specific place, to me at least. It was something where it was like, okay, it started from a songwriter hang, and then there was like the gigs that I saw where there was improvisation happening. There was some definite like jazzy tendencies, and then recently, like I know the last thing that just came out to me is like very fucking experimental rock, and you still have like the great songwriting stuff, but I feel like the default has switched. Is that something that happened on purpose, or is this just like an artist evolution kind of vibe?
It's both.
Was it marketing? Like was it a business
No,
thing?
because it's like I started in jazz as like jazz girl on the piano, and I have a degree in it.
Yeah, a master's.
Couple degrees,
Yeah.
and but basically, so when you saw me, I was probably doing the record I did called Let Go.
I think it was right before that came out because I
Yeah.
remember the people recording that with you.
Okay, so we were kind of like doing those songs, and it was definitely
2014?
I wanted to. Yeah, 14. Yep, and I had started writing lyrics maybe like 4 or 5 years before that at all. So I wanted to be a songwriter. I didn't really know how to get what I wanted yet, and so of course my heavy jazz influence was in that. Which I still was like, I was kind of like holding on tight to, like, I'm a jazz person. I have to improvise. I have to play a solo. It has to be. So, but then I met Tim, and my songwriting was getting better, and we decided to go into the next record, When It Falls Together. So he produced it. And so a lot of the grooves and stuff come from him, and come from my wanting to keep going away from jazz.
Yeah.
And more heavy sonic stuff and
I feel like it's definitely, I mean, just from I'm obviously friends with you guys, so I'm biased a little bit, but like as a business call, I feel like there's a higher upside. It seems like I've seen a lot of jazz artists do this lately, where it's like we're going to inch as close as possible to the like either rock vein
Yeah.
or on the other side of the vein, like
And
the
it's
hip hop
not
vein.
really working to
You don't
some
think so?
degree.
Yeah.
To some degree, yeah, it's like 50-50.
Yeah. I mean, a dude like Donnie to me is an example of it, at least working.
Well, right, because
Yeah.
it's like what she did. I mean, it's still.
But Donnie, he was already a successful jazz musician.
Right, sure.
I was just kind of still learning, and kind of moved in other directions.
Yeah.
So I mean,
It's all about who. I mean, he also hired a producer who knew what he was doing. Like everything on that record is a different sonic landscape, which I think is really interesting, and that helps a lot. Like if you listen like down the record, and you get to Tokyo, like it sounds like lo-fi, like what's the word? Like almost Kraftwerk, like synth pop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like and then there's other stuff that sounds like rock, and like. So it's like everything has a different flavor. I think that's sort of important. For Donnie it is, because, the elements are sort of similar on each thing.
Yeah.
You know.
His vibe, I mean, the people that I've showed it to who aren't, I have this, I think this is a good idea for a lot of musicians to have some friends that aren't.
Yeah.
Like you have your like 4 or 5 people who are like cool, great
Right.
hames, but who like don't really know music in the way you do. When I would show those people Donnie's record, like, because I started to do a gig or two with him here
Right.
and there, and I would say like, yeah, it's this like really great jazz artist, and I would play a tune, and they're like, wait, what?
Right.
It sounds like a Death Cab record or
Right.
something.
Yeah, well, no, right.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was in there. That all come, but he some a light bulb went off with him after we did Bowie.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I'm going full on.
yeah.
It kind of did it for all of us, actually. It's
I
just
can,
like,
I can imagine
Yeah,
that.
it was a sort of synergistic
Yeah.
stuff happening between those guys in my project and
Yeah.
some other stuff Tim was doing.
Yeah, a dude from Buffalo wrote about it, actually.
Really?
Yeah. It was just interesting because we all just kind of, we don't play together that often, but everybody's splintered off and everybody's standing up for their own projects and kind of, it's all weird and interesting and.
I feel like Mark. I'm a lot of Mark's new stuff is it's not quite in the same direction, but I can definitely hear the.
He went back into jazz.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And it's
Well,
great.
the stuff I'm doing, like the new stuff, I don't know if he's announced it yet, so I won't.
So
say
the beat
what it
music?
is, but yeah, I don't know. Has he talked about it?
Are you on some of that?
Well, I'm touring it with him.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Are you going to Cuba?
I'm doing all of end of April and May and summer and
Oh, cool.
October and November.
I didn't know that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's going to kill.
Dude, I'm really hyped about it.
Yeah.
I'm doing one gig in New York where me and Yuki are both playing.
Killer.
Uh,
Yeah. I think I played on one.
Yuki, I'm coming at you.
Yeah.
you
I'm coming after him.
I think I played on one song on that record.
Yeah, it seems like some of that stuff. He already kind of had that weird electronic edge, but it definitely is like going more in a direction that reminds me of.
Well, that's had a bunch of different iterations, as you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Like it's not now. It's less improvisatory as it used to be than it used to be.
Yeah, a lot of parts.
Yeah, it's definitely structured.
And have you, I guess in this shift, like, have you noticed a different reaction? Like, have you noticed like some crowds going like, it's too weird, and some people being like, this shit's fucking awesome.
No, so kind of going. No, just going back, like when I made this record, I think I started gaining a new fan base, and I think my old jazz fan base has trickled away. Which is fine with me, and I didn't, I guess I didn't look at it like, okay, if I do this more like heavy rock thing, like people are gonna really love it. Like it wasn't like that. It was just something I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I just kind of felt myself moving away from jazz, kind of. Although I have a jazz gig in like a month at ETA.
Now,
But,
and at the time you were recording, because When It Falls you worked on it for like a year or two?
Yeah, we worked on it like a year and a half.
Okay.
Something like that.
And at the time, I think you were doing some touring with jazz people, right? Weren't you playing with Bodie then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, right when... Did we start that when I started it when I was with Katie Tunstall,
Okay.
I think. And then that gig ended, so I went with Chris Bodie. And I was playing keyboards and background keyboards in the band.
Yeah.
And so for myself, it wasn't necessarily a jazz gig because I didn't get a solo.
Very
You were
background.
shredding.
I didn't get to shred. I just was playing pads in the background in the dark. No spotlight, nothing. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, yeah, you could say it was a jazz gig, but
I feel you.
I wasn't doing it. So yeah. So that helped me make the record. Actually, that gig. It afforded me the luxury to pay musicians.
No, yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that. How do you? This is something I'm always curious of people who are, and I can ask both of you this, but I feel like the answer is probably going to be a bit different. Like, when you do the side guy thing, I feel like if I could pick one, if I was like, okay, I'm just side guy, I have a very specific set of traits that I have to put out there that like, okay, I'm really great at following your orders and like being what you want me to be, blah blah blah. And then when you're an artist, all of that goes out the window. It's like, nah, I have a very specific thing, you know, like how do you when you were, and to a certain extent still are, doing the side guy thing where you play with people, but yet you also have like your own shit. Do those ever fight? Or do they ever come in conflict with one another?
They fight in my head.
That's
Well, I
best
can
there.
talk about on the Rufus Wainwright gig. It's kind of cool because I get to go out and do my thing, or whatever this version of my thing is.
Sure.
And then we do his sets where I'm singing. I'm like the female singer, which is
Okay.
his sister Martha is the singer on most of his records.
Okay.
When you hear the female voice. So I'm like singing her parts, but I'm still able to sing them like myself because they're very leady parts.
Sure.
So it's not just like background singers trying to harmonize and
Yeah.
So so in that way, I'm still sort of an artist sitting in the keyboard chair, and then playing keyboard parts. But if you're talking about like which one do I want to be more or something like that, my artist, I definitely want to do the artist thing a lot more. But it's like, how do I pay for it?
See,
I have to be a sideman in order to do it.
That's the big question. That's the thing that I'm always slightly at conflict with is and I think you can, and I've been lucky enough. It's definitely luck and not as much skill, I don't think, but to get in situations that line up with your, like if you're weird, they line up with your weirdness. But
That's how it should be, though.
it definitely should be. I ran into way more in New York of, okay, I can take this thing that will pay for everything, even if it's like a wedding gig or some shit like that. But a lot of those times, I would really struggle with like, I can't tell anyone I'm doing this. I had this. It was almost like this vibe of like, maybe I was wrong, maybe I could have pulled it off and it would have been fine. But I always felt like if I was telling everyone how busy I was and what I was doing to make money, whatever aura or mysticism I was trying to maintain about my playing went totally out the fucking window. And the reason I thought that is because I would see other people I respected doing that. Like I would see some, and I'm not gonna name any names, but I would see like a bass player who I was like, man, that dude's bad as hell. And then like you would see his last 3 posts would be like, playing rock with you in my 3rd key today, and it just there's something about that just kills it for me. And maybe the general population doesn't fall victim to that, but I definitely did.
Well, you have to do like my dad's like, God bless him. He's a piano player. He was all about it. He was all about music as a business, and just like which I was hoping it would never feel like that to me. For the most part, but it occasionally it does, and you got to make money somehow.
Sure.
So you got to kowtow to what people need.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to do that in the studio though, because it's like a one-time. You
Sure.
can put on a different thinking cap. It's just hard to do it long term.
Yeah.
Even though when I did the Bryan Adams gig, that was something I didn't think I was capable of doing. I was like 10. It was 90% playing the parts and 10% adding your own shit, and which they liked.
Yeah. See, that shit's cool because if you have worked to build a personality, even 10% gives you a few moments where people are gonna see it and be like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
That dude can play.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good, but that's a gig where you have to respect what the part. You have to be a robot, and hopefully the math works where it's just like, okay, I can be a robot, and if it's paying enough.
Sure.
If it's not paying enough, then no.
Yeah.
I mean, then you can't. I mean, a one-off or something, but something long-term. There's some kind of thing where you either be creative and don't get paid a lot, or you get paid a lot and you just be a robot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's I feel like especially touring musicians, there's a and again I could be wrong here, but I feel like there's only a certain amount of time that your body lets you do that.
Yeah, 100%.
And I ran into this with and he's one of my favorite musicians, this dude Gabriel Garzon Montano. He was like probably my first touring gig. I think actually he was my first. So, yeah, I went to Europe for the first time with him, and the music crushing. Like he's one of the coolest, most innovative young cats out there. You know, like everyone's. I think at one point, like 10 of the top 100 tunes were like samples of his, and none of them credited him. Like he makes really interesting shit that's cool to sample. Drake, and he and he, you know, that gig, the music was really dope, and it definitely took a high level musicianship, because he played keys and he had these really interesting voicings and shit. And there were two parts of the gig for me. One was, okay, I'm going on tour, I'm learning how to tour, this shit is fun, but I also had this huge realization that like every show I would get done, and there was a weird part of me that felt unfulfilled, because I had to play note for fucking note what was on those records. And like, you know, I tell everyone I teach, like, you want to have the ability to do that. You know, if someone hires you and like, here's $7 billion a year and you have to play quarter notes for a year, like, you want to be able to pull it off. But I think it's, for me, it was really important to go through a tour like that had all the other shit. It had the like cool factor, because he's a hip young dude, and like the hang was really great. You know, he's doing really well now. Like he's always killing tours and playing really great crowds and stuff. But I was like, man, I have to be able to at least play a little bit.
Right.
And I think it was a big okay for me, especially moving out here, because there's so much pop work. Yeah. You know, and it's like you get in these situations and you're like, fuck, do I...
Well, there's like a whole group of people who are just tailor-made for that. Like, I will play every note, the coiffed hair, you know, like they're young and they can play, but
they make so much fucking money doing that sometimes.
I don't think so.
Really? You don't think so?
No. I haven't heard that.
Some people.
Yeah, some people do, but it's like it's a cadre of people who do that here, and it's just that's what they're here for.
That's their thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, cool.
I'm glad that those gigs exist for those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I can hang on a gig like that like a couple months probably, and then I'll be like, oh my god.
Well, I
What's next?
I would just, you know, my thing would be like, hey, can you rein it in a little bit? That's what happens to me.
I think I tried at one point during a rehearsal to like reharm something. Yeah. And I just remember like 2 or 3 faces being like, whoosh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like, that's a no.
Yeah. I started taking it, like we were playing Run to You. This is really killer Bryan Adams song. And I started taking a little bass solo in the breakdown. And then, you know, I was like, yeah, you know, dial it back a little bit.
Like on an actual show or rehearsal?
No, afterwards. It's just, you know, maybe you want to play a little straighter in the verses, or, you know,
I meant like, did you do it at a show?
Oh, yeah. No, I did it.
I did so good.
What about the time you messed up that
Oh, yeah, that was the greatest. Story. Yeah. We were playing Everything I Do it for You. Yeah. And you know, it's just like simple ass tune. And we started playing the verse, and I hit a massive clam, like wrong note, just fucking wrong. And Bryan, you know, it's like he's singing it, and it's like just a slow, slow turnaround. It's like just kind of like looking at me, and then I look around the band, and nobody would look at me. They were just like this, like drummer, and like, you know, they were the coolest guys, but it turned out they were just busting my balls. Because there was a you know, it's just like, you know, the 5 minute in the box, 5 minutes in the penalty box for fucking up, like, because it's just exposed, and I just fucked it up so hard. And so like just nobody was, it was just like everybody's like
they probably knew if they stared at you too, they would just break down.
Oh no, they were, you know,
that's the best. Like, if I catch someone fucking up a fill, I am staring at them until they start laughing, because that's the only way I won't laugh.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was about. It was, they totally were not taking it serious, but it's great, because you think they are serious. It's just like nobody looks at you. It's like.
I was talking to Sput. And he had this really great version of that story that hopefully I don't butcher, and I'll tell quickly. But he was playing with like Celine Dion when she was doing all the like Vegas show shit. And apparently there was this guy who during rehearsals would follow him around and like make notes and all this shit. And he was like, yeah, I never really knew, you know, why he was following me around. I just figured he was some sort of production thing or whatever. And he said, like, middle of the run, he's like, you know, we've been playing the shit the same way every night. And so in the middle of one of the songs, there's like a break, and I do this drum fill. I've been keeping it pretty simple, but I just decided to go for it. And he said that he played the fill, and basically the production stopped for a second or two. Like, all the dancers freaked out. Like, the lights seemed all weird and everything. And apparently what this guy who was following him around was doing was like making notes on the show, and they had figured out that he'd basically been playing the same fill every time. So they built like the lights of the show and the dance movements all around this like specific fill, and he's just like and just totally fucked it up. And I think he got fired after that.
Yeah.
I think it was like such a big hopefully I'm not butchering that story, but I think
That's
the
awesome.
next day they were like, sorry bro.
That's
we did
He's
a
great.
fun record with him. With
Sput?
Yeah,
yeah, Emily Sallier.
yeah, from the Indigo Girls.
Dude, he is
God, dude.
one of the funniest dudes I've ever hung with.
Yeah,
And is like, dude, his like meters pocket, I mean his pocket on everything's killing, but
Yeah.
like him playing like 60s R&B, there's not too many people to me that do that.
have you met Stanley Randolph from here?
Yeah, same vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, really good at that stuff.
Yeah. Man, I did the Vic first shit with Stanley last year.
Yeah.
And it was like everyone else was like, everyone but him. I'm gonna get in hella trouble for saying this, but again, fuck it. Like Juliana came and did one of his
Yeah.
tunes, so it had a specific vibe. But a bunch of the people who did it last year, like, kind of had drummy show off stuff. Which again, if I was doing it, I'd be like,
Right.
fuck yeah, I'm gonna play as many things as possible. Stanley Randolph came in there and just played it sounded like a Stevie tune. 'Cause
Right.
The whole tune is
Yeah.
like just most regular shit. So killing.
Yeah, he's great at that stuff.
Biggest hat
Yep.
ever.
Biggest hat.
Speaking of hats, so what's the whose hat is this vibe? Are you?
Segue, I like that.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Is it something to where, and even if this is a different project, like I noticed you've been doing a lot of like the pure improvisational. I mean, because we just did a show last Friday
Yeah.
where the whole night just go. You know?
Yeah.
And it seems like maybe this was always a thing, but I feel like that's becoming more popular. Just these like improv sets, and you're one of the best ones at it because you're fearless. You know, a lot of times in those situations, especially with people I've played with, you get a bunch of people who don't. There's no alpha male,
Right.
and I think at some point, if you notice that, you need to be one. You know, there's a very specific musician who I won't name who I played one of those with, and we both defaulted to each other the whole time, and
Yeah.
the gig was a mess.
Yeah, that's the problem. The other thing is like that's one trick is navigating those waters, and the other trick is like not staying on something too long, because then it's just like, oh Christ, because you hear it back when it's a live thing, and it's just like, oh boy, that went on way too long.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's always a fear. But so most of the time, I mean, you don't want to be too ADD about it, but you want 3 or 4 minutes on a thing, and that's
Sure.
it.
When I know because a friend of mine told this that I think she attended a clinic that you did with Who's That in Rotterdam, maybe.
Yeah, that would be right.
Yeah, and so I'm curious as to what you teach at those, because a lot of times like when a band comes in, like if we do something with Corey, it's like, okay, everyone kind of addresses their individual instrument.
Right.
You might talk about like, here's how I play with a group, but in improv situations, that's all it is.
Well, right, because it makes people have to take their. It's basically like taking your clothes off. It's like, okay, what do you got?
Yeah.
But basically we're just like, okay, JJ and Falcon are really good clinicians too. So like they would just grab a kid and sit him down on the drum set and say, okay, just go, and we'd put like different
And
groups
react
together.
to them. Wow.
Well, no, they just make kids play
Oh,
with each
shit,
other,
okay.
or whatever. I'd play, or like it was some kind of mixture, and it's cool because it's like. Because most of them in music school don't think that way. It's just like, oh, what scale am I going to do, and blah blah blah, and unless they have some balls or
Yeah.
they just are, they're leaning that way anyway.
It takes some.
Well, those things all started like we used to do. Dave Binney used to organize those things at the 55 bar, like way back in the day.
See, that was that Semrad. That was
Yeah.
Was the Wayne Krantz stuff and the Carlock stuff like super improv?
Well, a lot of it
Well,
was,
yeah.
but that was within Wayne's thing was a specific thing. But that was in the period with Binney. It was like me and Zach and JoJo, John Marin, Jamie Saft, Henry Hay, Takuya. All these guys. We were doing live drum and bass, like electronica
Yeah.
stuff. So like the cool thing was that was all improvised. So like it was just kind of like, okay, we can bring this to the 55 bar. Tended to be a little more jazzy,
Sure. Yeah.
but it was just kind of like Dave kind of brought it to the jazz thing where we were already doing it at like clubs around New York.
Sure.
But so it was just kind of. It just feels like a natural thing. It's not like
Yeah, he's special because of that though. Like that, I found that I would say 99% of the musical population can't bring their jazz into something else.
right.
And that, I just heard him do a show with Genevieve where she was doing like indie rock ballads,
Yeah.
and he would play jazz over it, and it wasn't corny.
Yeah, no,
It's
he's
like, oh
good.
no, that feels like it needs to be there.
Yeah.
But he's a minority. It's like him and Donnie, and there's maybe 4 or 5 other
Yeah.
dudes I can think of, but it takes a really special skill set.
Yeah.
I'm really pissed that I missed the 55 bar experience, because now I'm playing more with people who did it,
Yeah.
and it just seems like it was like it bred a very special type of listener. Like even just the people who hung there
Yeah.
are all like, oh, you like really special
It's funny, like, it turned out to be super influential. You don't think
Yeah.
about it at the time, you're just like, okay, I gotta go play the 55 bar.
How long
But
were
a lot of people got their heads blown off in there, and they always let all of us know how much it influenced them,
And is that's kind of how I won't dive. I know you've been asked probably too many Bowie questions over the past 2 years, but like that's kind of how that started, right? Didn't he come to a show there and see Donnie's band? Or something?
That was more for confirmation. Like he had been given Casting for Gravity
Okay.
by Maria Schneider.
Okay.
So he just came to check it out, see how we were live. And
Probably didn't hurt.
No, it didn't hurt. Although I was sucking so bad, like when my
Really?
shit was getting unplugged, it was a horrendous night
Dude,
for me. And it was just like, well, whatever. I mean, but they were sold. It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, what was the one Bowie question that I wanted to ask, just because I haven't read it, was like, because he passed away right after that thing happened,
Yeah.
did you guys all know that he was sick? Like,
Yeah.
was it something
Yeah.
he talked about? Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm sure there's hella stuff that he was like, yeah, don't bring this up.
It wasn't like don't bring it up. It's like just don't talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it was more out of respect and like, well, if we do this, we're gonna get sick. He was actually a fucking cool guy. So like, somebody actually not to say anything that he's
Yeah.
very ill. And
Help
of
hone
course,
that.
you just I mean, it's just something you do out of respect.
Damn. I bet that makes that process like so much. I mean, it's deep anyway, playing with like a fucking legend, but like playing with a legend who tells you like, yeah, this might be the last one.
He didn't say that. He just said, I'm really sick.
Oh.
I'm gonna be in and out of chemo.
Damn.
But the thing was like the record before it also been done in total secrecy. So like that was kind of more of the it wasn't like we were sort of expecting it, but we didn't expect to come in and have him have him just come out of chemo. That was
Yeah.
rough.
Jesus.
Yeah, because unfortunately all of us have experience with people who have cancer that we
Yeah.
love. So it's just like I was just like, Jesus, not this again. You know what I mean? No, I saw my mom with it. Her dad passed away from it. It's just like it's rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had one or two pretty bad ones, and it's like it's a very specific kind of rough.
Yeah.
Because you know that it's not just like a prognosis. It's like, okay, you have the probable end result.
Yeah.
And then you also have the path there that you can't
Yeah.
be negative about. You just can't. Like,
Well,
you have to.
the thing was is that he wasn't, and he was
Yeah.
also getting better and better each session that we did. We did like
Okay.
1 week a month. He kept getting better. So I was like,
It seemed hopeful.
yeah. I mean, then we were done. I never heard from him again. He sent us an email saying the shit was great and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And then they mixed it and put the record out. But I never saw him after that. There was one picture of him in December when he showed up at Lazarus at the play.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how long between when you guys finished and when it came out. Was it like
year.
A year. Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, it came out on his birthday the year later, January 8th. We were done. We started in January 2015,
Yeah.
and then it was out a year later.
How does that situation? I mean, playing with a dude that special seems like such a pinnacle moment. I mean, obviously because he's a fucking legend. Like, do you ever find yourself seeing like doing other gigs and just kind of being like underwhelmed by the sheer like wholeness of it? Because I feel like if I were to have played with, I never got lucky enough to play with Prince or somebody like that.
Right.
But I feel like if you play with a Prince, and I've asked Taylor on this before because he drummed with him before he passed, but you get to a point to where it's like, okay, I've played with the best version of that. So I wonder what it does to all the versions underneath.
It's not so much. I mean, live is live to me. So I think we could be playing in a room the size of my living room,
Sure.
and if the gigs good, like we did Friday,
Yeah.
or when we've done some gigs with you that have been they all feel like I got as high from those as it's just, but being part of a record that's such a complete statement, like I don't know if I'll ever play on a record that's like, I mean, what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
holy, I still can put it on and go, holy shit,
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm on this. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's not my vision at all. I just think it's, whoever, just David,
Yeah.
it's just an incredible statement.
But I mean, he seems
top to
like,
bottom.
I mean, just from hearing it seems like he was really good about letting, it's like he chose y'all's personality for a reason.
Yeah, but we the thing was like he had stuff like scripted out pretty carefully, some stuff, and then he let us go nuts on other stuff.
That's the shit that when I hear it makes it so special for me. Was like you had his thing, his like Bowie-ist nature, but then you also had these people smashing behind it.
Yeah.
Like there's some heavy shit on that record.
But the thing was, it's like he always did that.
Yeah.
He always allowed that with his groups. I mean, he's legendary for that.
Yeah.
It just was like in this particular lineup. He had never hired an existing band before. We had all this chemistry, and so it was easy. And we just like, oh, cool. Me and Mark have this hookup from having played so much that it was just like, we could just let's do this at the end, and bam, we did it.
Yeah.
And then like Lazarus, the song is just like, that's just some picture. Like we're big Fink fans. I was just like, let me try this, because he would just start playing the beat, and I was just like playing some pick shit, and it was like, and he said, oh, I like that, and so it stuck. Like so those are the points where you could create.
Yeah.
And there's other parts that you just play the demo straight down.
Man.
So
Yeah, even hearing Donnie do Lazarus live now, it's like you can tell that the this is corny as shit, but you can tell that his spirit is like still like in him, like that shit's not gonna go away.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if any other band's gonna sound like that playing it.
No, man, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a heavy moment. So you guys you said you head out again.
I head out
In a few
in
days.
2 days
How
out
long
to
you out for?
Australia. We're out for 2 weeks, and then there's a couple weeks off. We go to Europe for a month,
Nice. Okay.
and then kind of wrap up the tour in May.
Okay. How's is your summer as rampant as?
My summer is
Past
not rampant.
That's fabulous.
It is for just laying out in the sun, but other than that, like
Yeah.
I gotta pay the bills too. So
And what's your story now? Are you here for a bit?
A couple. I'm pretty busy through May. I got some time off, but I'm pretty busy basically every month until the end of July.
That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to dive back in. I
Yeah.
did, I'm not a vacation kind of guy.
but we've been like kind of getting up in the studio and
Yeah,
Yeah,
we-
yeah.
producing things and working on tracks and writing with people, a lot of new people.
yeah,
and
that's been cool.
it's been good.
Yeah, you guys seem to have a cool situation of like you can take your, and I guess this is a plus to being like an independent artist and a touring person, is like you can kind of switch gears, and it's like it's almost like a refresh because you're still done with work, so the other part of work isn't really work anymore. It's like side guy thing is side guy thing.
Yeah.
I get to come back and like do my shit, and it's healthy and
Yeah.
super creative and take some time with it.
Yeah, I think the key is like it's super creative. It's the most fulfilling music thing that we do at home. I think it's just up there.
Are you Rachel trying to write for other people in LA, or are you sticking mainly to your own stuff?
It's all the things.
All the
so I've been
things.
meeting with other writers and doing co-writes and
Nice.
for purposes or just like to see what comes out, or some stuff that I'm going to be doing is like for the purpose of getting placed on TV or whatever. So
hear that.
yeah, all kinds of stuff.
One of the questions that I've been asking everyone in these podcasts is I'm a huge, I try to be a huge advocate for music education because I feel like there's a very bad way of doing it. We were talking about colleges before. I might avoid that theme this podcast since I've dove heavy in the past 3. But what now that you guys have both done a ton of the touring thing, and you've also been an artist at home, you've played with like pop people, super not pop people. What do you tell the young kids who are getting into this? Like, what's the what's the thing that they're not hearing that you would want them to know?
You mean from schools or?
From it, like, I'll give you an example. Like something that I hear a lot is the young kid who wants to tour, for instance, and I don't think you hear a lot of the realities of what that does to you mentally.
Physically.
And physically, yeah. I'm
Mentally and physically, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, at least in my experience, the physical one has sucked, but the tough part has been the mental part. It's like, how do you, like I'm very open about, therapy and meditation and like the fact that I've struggled with anxiety super intensely for like 5-6 years, but my biggest thing was like, oh shit, if I'm touring, there's no regular, like when you're at home, you get,
Right.
it's like, okay, if I'm if I wake up every day at 8 or 9, I can run, I can, or read a book, do this thing, cook lunch, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty much the same. You may have your few, like, social experiences that are a little different. But on tour, I don't think you ever have that. At least with the tours I've done, maybe some people who are super successful have the, like, this is my day all the time.
You have to learn how to balance your life.
Jesus Christ.
And from tour to home and on tour. So, like, within your day.
You're good at structuring your day.
Yeah, I'm too organized, but but it's like, I think when you're in your 20s and you're young and you're partying and it's all fun and everything's glamorous and everything is just like, you can't believe you're there right now and you get to meet all these famous people who aren't actually really famous.
Yeah,
It's like you're just kind of, you're blinded by all the stars you see in your eyes and stuff like that. So that's kind of easy to get through that without having to think too much about your mental health and stuff like that. But if it's kind of like if you don't, and if you're partying and stuff like that so much, you're gonna go downwards in your 30s because you're not thinking about that stuff ahead of time.
It does take that long.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that people don't. I mean, you have to get on a gig first so you can sort of appreciate this. But there's a thing where, like, you get addicted to playing in front of a lot of people and getting used to that just lights and attention on you. You know what I mean? And when you come home, there's none of that. And so it's kind of like it's a massive gear shift. Where you have to, like, not feel, because you can get depressed. It's like, oh fuck, it's not like nobody, like this, unless there's some kind of self, what's the word, confirmation. Like if something doesn't happen during the day, it's like self-confirming, or that's not the right word I'm thinking of. But
I think you just get used to validation.
Validation, that's what it is.
Yeah,
so if there's nothing like, you don't get the email that you want during the day, like even one day, it's just like fuck. You know what I mean? It's hard. Like I'm going through that a little bit. It's like withdrawal or something.
Yeah, hell yeah. I ran into a lot of that with, Corey's band, especially because his vibe is so, he's revered by so many people, deservingly so, because he's one of the greatest fucking keyboard players in the world. But you get this rash of, you're in a situation where people will build you up and build you up and build you up, to where even if it doesn't happen for a show, and I run into this a lot, where it's like I'll play a show and I think I'm smashing, and then I'll get done, nobody comes up and says anything, which, again, if you look at it on paper or you look at it in, like, how things kind of should be, it really should be, you want to aim for, like, self-validation. Like, you really want to be like, was I happy with that? Great.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't, what was it, how can I fix that? Because you can't, that's the only thing you can control.
Yeah.
But that's a really good thing to bring up, because it's super real, and it can be dangerous.
But the other thing is like, what if you disagree with somebody else's take on it? Like,
sure. Yeah.
Well, that's when then you stop.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where you stop worrying about it.
Yeah.
Just go do your thing.
Yeah, I just feel like it's something that's something that if you tell people, I feel like if I would have heard all that before I started touring, I would have paid attention to it, because I think that's something that if you catch early enough, it's like, oh yeah, it's not really about what the fuck other people think, or at least it shouldn't be. There's a certain. See, and this is the trouble. When I start analyzing this shit, is there's a certain part of it that actually is. Especially when like you're an artist, like you have to care. Like if you're constantly playing shows and like everyone's like, oh, this is terrible, and you're just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like you might be happy, but you're probably not gonna have like a huge career.
But you'll be happy. What's more important?
That is so true.
I mean, I don't need the validation either, but like there should be something. You just played in front of like 2,500 people, and it's just like, I don't get the flatlining. I just don't. It's just a weird thing to me. It's just like, well, did nothing just happen for 2 hours?
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's like, and I don't need to be told I sound, like I can tell if I sounded good or not. You know what I mean? It's just like, so I'm just like.
I used to run into situations where you would have the singer on stage who like wasn't getting the respect they felt they deserved.
From the band or from the audience?
From the audience. And so they would yell at the audience. And I think
I love that.
And I understand, like a part of me understands. It's like, okay, you have this, like, I feel like this needs to be happening. I deserve this attention. But I think a bigger part of me was always like, man, the people who get that attention and who really deserve it are the people who earn it.
Absolutely.
You know, so there's a certain extent of like when I see crowds who are, and maybe this is dangerous, but when I see crowds that aren't reacting, I immediately come back in to go like, fuck, did I not bring it? Like, which isn't always true. So again,
Right.
you know, you have to maintain a balance there. But I feel like especially in I mean, side guys have to do that, but I think artists too. You know, like it's almost more important that you're reacting because if you're trying to sell your product, like you have to think of it like a product sometimes.
Right.
which is
You
a
want
pain in the
you want
ass.
customer feedback.
But some of that's purely geographical too. Like
Totally.
like if you go to fucking I don't know, Cleveland, Ohio, they're not going to react the same as Chicago. You know what I mean? Like seriously,
Yeah.
there's a definite like different like geographical audience response factor that happens. And so,
But
like,
then, like, I noticed that when I was on this last tour. But then so many cities would surprise me with like the amount of emails and stuff afterwards or messages, you know.
yeah, you never know.
So you never know.
Yeah.
You just have to trust yourself.
Well, and there's certain places like you said the geographical thing. I remember playing in it wasn't Manchester, maybe Bristol. It was somewhere not London. But we at one point I did a tour with Corey where we played like 4 Liverpool. That's where it was. So we played Liverpool, and we fucking smashed so hard, and no one in there made a sound. It was just very polite claps. And I had this crazy feeling of like, damn, this is Liverpool, and we smashed. Like, people should be hanging off ceilings and going in. And so for about 10 minutes after the show, I was really, really dark. And then you start talking to people, and people, like...
They loved it.
That show was like, oh, that was one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. And, like, my terrible English accent. And they... don't get offended, sorry, Liverpool. You know, so... But they would come up to you and say these things, and so... That's another reason why it's tricky to gauge that response is because you can't always know, like, man, maybe they just aren't partiers. Or maybe everyone here is sober.
Yeah.
You know?
Japan's like that.
Yeah.
Super polite.
Yeah.
But they love it.
Man. Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I need to play East more, man. It hasn't been that much. But it's definitely a really intense level of respect that is
Yeah.
all the Asian spots I've played. Really quickly before I get rid of you guys, you are 2 of the best coffee hang folks I've ever played with. Tell me, I know that you both tour with setups. Give me the like tip and tricks, like 2-minute.
Oh, I have a good
explanation.
trick
Yes.
that I've been doing. So I was bringing, let's say, the Kalita, which is the metal
Kalita wave, yeah.
the metal filter thing, and you put the actual paper filter in there. But in order to save space, well, first I was bringing the hand grinder and a bag of beans, and I would grind my beans every day. If it's a short tour, pre-grind your beans. Put them in a bag. It gets rid of like 2 pounds.
Yeah.
3 pounds.
Probably also saves your arm.
It
I
saves
always
your
had
arm,
cheap
and
grinders,
people
and
don't
it's
get
just-
irritated on the bus by your grinding noise every day.
That's so.
I mean, in Asia, in England,
yeah.
there's always you don't have to really bring a pot.
Yeah.
But other places you do.
Man, and if you bring a kettle, definitely use your power converter so that it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm using the collapsible Gourmet. Do you have that?
No.
Okay.
Dude, I need the whole.
Smashes down. It's like
Yeah.
Holy shit.
pancake.
Yeah.
I may have to give people a link to this.
Yeah, it's $29 on Amazon, so it crushes down. See, like this,
Oh my god.
If
It's a
it's-
collapsible pot.
and it's $220 and $110.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's fucking,
That's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
yeah, it's good. So that way you always have, your water thing taken care of, and then
Yeah.
also, and I always bring this, but she's right. If you go into good cities where there's good coffee, like Chicago, like
Yeah,
you just, I wouldn't even worry about it. You just have them buy beans there and
yeah.
have them ground, or you can use the best hand grinder in the
shit.
world.
Oh yeah, we have
Commandante.
Yeah, Commandante.
Yeah.
This thing
Yeah.
looks like a weapon.
It's the best hand grinder you could possibly
It's
get.
great.
Well,
It's smooth. Try it.
What is that?
Just grind for
that's
a
the other
second.
thing I'm grinding right now. Oh my god, it's way easier than mine.
It's expensive though. They're like $250.
Oh, I hate that.
Oh.
Yeah, but you know what, man?
What?
It's the greatest.
Yeah.
I mean, after enough times with the poor Lexus and all those things, I just like fuck it. Like, I went to they're available. He wasn't selling them in the States at the time. He
Okay.
has a store in Munich.
Okay.
It's called what's this place called? Hold on.
I would run into trouble sometimes assuming countries I would think would have amazing coffee hangs, I would just be in places that wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, we play Italy quite a bit, and we'd be in like a small...
Supremo Coffee. It's just outside of Munich. Anyway, so he manufactures those.
Yeah.
There's also
Yeah, those are good.
like stuff like this. We got these packets of steeped coffee. It's called steeped coffee.
I have to
do you know?
narrate what we're...
Yeah. It's like a tea bag, but there's coffee in it.
Oh, shit.
So it's super portable.
They made it
Okay.
Santa Cruz. Steeps is the brand.
So coffee nerds, we have some options. And what do you guys? This is last question, and maybe it'll be a terrible one, but do you find like having something like this like contributes to your regularness? We just talked about the like, okay, you on tour you never really have this like pattern that you follow, something that. And maybe it's affected you guys the same way.
Like mental regularness or
like there's
digestive regularness.
That's true.
Both.
It
No,
just
it's
seems
everything.
like
It's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that makes me feel normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, when he gets ready for tour, he'll be like, "Do I bring the Kalita? Do I bring the AeroPress?
Yeah.
What should I bring? The pour over?
Yeah. Because something's always coming
It's
with
very important." He's
Yeah.
like, "We need to get beans. I'm going on tour."
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean,
Bringing that process with you, some sort of like caged
Yeah.
sanity. to a
That
certain extent.
and finding a place to work out or bringing some things to be able
Yeah,
to
that's-
work out wherever you are.
Yeah.
Like he always finds gyms everywhere, in every city, and I'll bring like bands and things.
yeah, she does a lot
To
of
jump around.
in-room workworkouts. Whereas I need.
The
I lift kind of heavy. I lift the heavier barbells. You know what I'm saying? So like, I need to find the fucking physical fitness rooms.
dude, the band thing is that's a solid tour tip.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
Resistance band hang, Corey does a lot of that.
Yeah.
And it really changed me up. There's also anyone who's interested, and you guys should check this out at some point too. There's my friend David Bayless, who's a bass player from New York, does this. He does a podcast called, I think it's called Tour Organic, and he's I'm a recovering vegetarian. I used to be one, but he's like super vegan. But he does like Ironman training, and he tours all the fucking time. So
I need to read that actually.
yeah, it's a really heavy podcast where he just interviews just like all the super workouty vegan people. Like he gave me some crazy tips because I had a Skype, like basically a health lesson with him at one point, and he was saying something that used to help him was, and you never really run into this as being issue not having it when you're at home because you have so many other things you're used to, but he said that when you go to bed at night, one of his staples is to have I think he said he does 12 hours now, but he was suggesting for me 10, where you don't drink or eat anything. And he was like, it's such a big deal because, especially when you're not sleeping, your body can't fully recover.
Mm-hmm.
And so by giving yourself almost this like permanent fast every day, like this pattern of fasting, and he explained it way more eloquently than I am, but he said it's like another way to kind of let your body go.
Yeah.
But that's assuming a couple things. Like you're going to go back to a hotel, maybe. That's assuming you're not on a bus full of partiers too. Everybody's getting high, and there's like fucking potato chips. It's like there's a whole bunch of other challenges involved.
That's
with it.
definitely it's definitely a tricky.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm actually going into this next tour as a vegan, so
yeah.
I'm actually really interested to listen to that and see how he does some of this stuff.
He plans really heavily too. Like he finds, and this again isn't something you can. It kind of depends on the situation you're touring with, but he'll find every city he's in. He'll find where the local, like if there's a co-op in the States or something that's selling organic shit, and he'll make it a point to where, okay, if I know that we're not going to sound check for an hour, I'm going to bring running clothes and I'm going to run there. So he's like always training, and that dude, I mean, he tours more than I do, and I tour a lot, and he's like just fit as a fucking whistle, and he just says he feels great. So yeah, he's a great one. Another guy is, do you know Joe Tomino?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like super,
Yoga maniac.
super yoga guy, but he's in the same vibe of like eating really healthy, like having these really distinct patterns that they follow health wise. And yeah, I could go on for hours about.
But the more planning you do beforehand, the better you are.
Absolutely.
I know on all fronts, really.
Yeah.
I used to have my road bike on the bus. I used to get quite a bit of cycling in.
Yeah, was it like a foldable joint or you just?
No, it was a real one.
That's dope. That's
So I
really cool.
pissed everybody off and they started burying it under barbecue gear.
It gets buried behind every suitcase. Do you guys have anything you want to throw out as advertising hang? You guys both have your own projects. Check out Rachel's record that came out recently.
Yeah, it's called When It Falls, And I'm gonna release a new single called "I'll Try"
Amazing.
in a couple weeks.
That you did with Althea Grace.
With Althea Grace, singer-songwriter.
Hell
Yeah, she's great.
And check the videos out. There's a really great keyboard player on them.
Oh yeah, I have this really amazing synth
That
solo
actually is
on one of my
ripping.
songs. It's totally ripping. Are you kidding? It's so
That
good.
shit was, man, Solomon was slaughtering. Yeah, the whole band.
Yeah,
It made it pretty
the whole
easy.
thing was good. And then the Derek who did the video made it look all rad and cool in our house.
So check out her videos. Give the Whose Hat Is This record to listen to. I listen to that shit all day today.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have another project coming out on
Yes.
Rope It Up called
Oh,
Ego Mondo with
Okay.
Gary Novak and Scott Kinsey and Kokai again.
Nice.
And
okay.
Rachel sang a song on it. And yeah.
Kinsey, man, I just met him like
Oh,
2
man.
weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Legend.
Yeah.
Like he's heavy as hell.
He's heavy.
You can
Yeah.
play. You guys are the best.
You're
Thank
the
you
best.
so much for being on this.
Thank
and,
you.
Thanks,
keep
Nick.
an eye out, everyone.
Thanks,
their
Nick.
their Instagrams are at
Tim Lefebvre.
Tim,
Lefevre.
Lefevre as
And
the last name.
mine's Rachel_Eckroth.
Give them a follow. Give this a listen. Tell your friends. Do all that shit. All right. See you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.